So give us just a little bit of idea how you got started writing screenplays.
Well, I was very, very lucky. I was working at Rolling Stone, and I'd written a couple books, and one of the books, Charlie Simpson's Apocalypse, was nominated for the National Book Award. And an executive in UA named Marcia Nassiter read the 4 nominees for the book award. And she called me, having read it, one of Charlie Simpson, and she said, "I think you write very cinematic, and can you come down and meet with us?" So I went down, and she said, "You know, would you like to do something? And because you're so cinematic, is there anything you want to do?" And I was very truthful with her. I said, "You know, I've never thought about doing screenplays, but I always wanted to write the great American novel, right? But I'll go back and I'll think about it." Now, I was making no money at Rolling Stone, and I was going through our pockets each night to see how we were going to support ourselves. And I thought about it for a while, and I called her back, and I said, "I have an idea." You know, she said, please come down, honey, let's talk about it. I grew up in Cleveland as a poor blue-collar kid, a refugee kid. And as I grew up, I met all kinds of union guys who had been beaten up and abused by corporate people and companies. And I thought maybe there's a good movie in this. And she said, "Well, I think this is a great idea. Why don't you go back and try to talk to these guys and go across the country, and then we will finance the research part of it." So I did, and then it went all across the country, and I discovered things like the Homestead Action, you know, where people were really abused and beaten nearly to death. And after all of that research, I did a treatment, and I handed it to her, and she said, this is really a wonderful idea. And they brought Norman Jewison into it, who had done all of these movies and a lot of hit movies, and gave it to him. And Norman said, "Well, come on down to me, kid." I was 7 years old. Okay. So I went down, and he said, "You know, I don't know what the hell this thing is. You know, it's not a treatment. It's not an outline. It's not exactly a piece of shit. But it's whatever it is. It's interesting, and I'm interested in it. But I don't know this. I don't know what we're gonna do." So Norman, who was one of the most generous people that I've ever met, and really a man with a wonderful heart. Norman and I worked for about 6 months, going through this script and going through this project. And it was like I got a master's seminar in screenwriting from a man who'd done 14 movies, right? More than 14, many years. So I wrote the script, and it was like 500 pages long, right? And I gave it to him. And Norman said, "You know, this is as big as War and Peace, but it's not as good as War and Peace. It doesn't read like it, kid." He always said, "Kid." Okay, well, he said, "We have to trim it down." And I said, there was a scene in this that was like, 15 pages long, one scene. And he said, "You've written this thing that's a 15-page monologue." I said, "Okay." He said, "They're going to throw fucking tomatoes at the screen, kid, because it's 15 pages of someone speaking." And I was so green, I was a Rolling Stone reporter, that I said, "But listen, they're great words, aren't they? They're great dialogue." And he just looked at me with his stony, flinty eyes and said, "Fuck you, we cut the whole scene." So he did several drafts, and 4 or 5 drafts, and cut this thing down to, to like 160. And I felt, of course, that I was martyring myself to do it down to that page. But he stuck with it. We got it down to about 125 finally. And he had to make a choice between Ragtime, the doctoral book, and what we'd been working on. And I thought I was dead meat. I forgot about it, all this time, 2 years, and Ragtime, it was so celebrated and all that stuff. And to my absolute amazement, he said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this thing, and I think this would be terrific. So he did. The movie came out. It absolutely disastered, both critically and commercially. I was in. The screenwriter is never sent out to do publicity, right? They sent me to Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati, and Cleveland, right? So I was in Pittsburgh doing publicity for the movie and getting up at 8 in the morning to 6 in the morning to do the early shows. And there was a wonderful guy named Ike Pappas who owned 3 theaters, Greek guy. And because I'm Hungarian, we identified immediately as a wonderful guy. He was the guy who took me around to the different shows and all that. And at the end of it, on the 3rd day, as he's driving me to the airport, he says, Joe, you're a great kid, but this piece of shit that you wrote in 3 of my theaters, there was nobody there. Right? So don't write anything like this again. Right? The premiere of this was in Dubuque, Iowa. And on the way there, the Time and Newsweek did their reviews. And Times review was, Times was J-U-N-K instead of Fist, right? And Newsweek's was, I don't remember, it was something equally derogatory. So we go into Dubuque, and Norman's there, and they planned this huge festival-like premiere with parades and old cars and all this stuff. And I go in there and I say to Norman, Jesus, have you read the reviews? He said, we're fucking dead meat, but keep smiling. Keep smiling. Okay, and all the way through this, keep smiling. And I did keep smiling. The final moment of this was like 3 weeks later when the movie had completely disastered. I spoke to the lady who in the beginning had discovered me and Marcia Nassiter, MGM lot. And I said, Marcia, what's going to happen now? I mean, my God, I'm no longer working for Rolling Stone. I've written the script, and it's gone up in flames, both commercially and critically, and what's going to happen? He said, honey, Sly Stallone is going to become the biggest star in the world. Norman Jewison is going to go on to do many more movies, and everyone has read your script, and you're going to do many more scripts, and this is my first one. And I said, you mean there's no responsibility? And she said, not in Hollywood. That's how I started.
Now, did it personally hurt you or affect you that it didn't do well and that it was so...
Well, I was scared. I was certainly frightened.
Yeah.
Because this is my first one. I left Rolling Stone. And I loved doing the screenplay, and I thought, well, what's going to happen now? So it frightened me, but it kept going on. Now, this was in, I think, 78, and I didn't have another movie made until 83. Because people had read the script and liked it, they hired me to do other things. But the things they hired me to do were made. And in 83, Flashdance was made. And it was this gigantic hit movie that no one expected. The studio had sold their rights and all that stuff. So suddenly there we were. But between 78 and 83, I was really scared. So guys, if you get scared, it's okay. Just keep writing stuff. It's like spitballing, and something might stick against the wall. Don't let yourself be defeated and knocked down. It really is a question of just